One of life's greatest questions is what happens to us after we die? Is death the end or a new beginning? Welcome to the Round Trip Death Podcast. In this show, we listen to first-hand accounts of people who have gone beyond the veil and return to talk about it. We are thrilled to have on the show with us today Bill Letson from beautiful Atascadero, California. Bill, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. How's Atascadero today?
It's beautiful. It's probably coming up on 90. And we're supposed to get some work days in. We got some stuff to do with the chickens, so we're hoping it'll cool off.
Okay. Well, people are going to be listening to this current and in all times of the year. So just to let people know, we're in October here in the United States and headed towards winter, although it doesn't get all that wintry out in that part of California. Anyway, Bill, tell us just a little bit about you. What did you do for a living and where do you come from?
I come from here, pretty much central coast of California. Grew up in a little town nearby and went to school, Cal Poly, got a degree in forestry, worked for the U.S. Forest Service for about 10 years. Did everything there, helicopters, helishots, backcountry ranger, all that. And moved on to the Santa Barbara County Fire Department. And I worked there for 25 years, retired as a captain. And I did everything there, backcountry rescue, help, medevac and hazmat, high rise, the whole thing. It was a wonderful, wonderful career.
I'll bet you have hundreds of stories you could tell. That's for another podcast.
Right. So, so we, my wife Leah and I, we live here in Atascadero, and it's paradise. So yeah, I had a near-death experience in '94, and while working for the fire department down in Santa Barbara, and I guess we'll go into that next.
Yeah, let's go back to that now. So 1994, you were out fighting a fire, and why don't you lead up to what happened? What was going on that day that led to this?
I'll give you the whole thing. For that a week leading up to this event, I kept getting this like whispering in my ear. This really strong intuitive thing saying you need to be ready for change. It's not a bad thing. It wasn't a foreboding message, just a change. And so I got ready. I took the dogs for long walks and took my wife to dinner and was extra good to my nieces, took them out to the movies and was very sentimental about my life. And that led right up to this event that, I was on duty at the end of that week. And we went to a severely ill patient. There was a strong flu going around Santa Barbara. And I was on a paramedic engine. There's 4 of us on that engine, I think. And we got into this patient's room, and it was all, the windows were all shut, and she was really ill. And I had to climb across her to get a nasal cannula on her nose for oxygen. She was circling the drain. And just as I climbed across the bed, she exhaled right into my face, and I was inhaling, and I felt it go in. And anyway, I got what she got. And at the time, this was a flu epidemic, and all the emergency rooms were, inundated in the Santa Barbara County area. And about 2 days later, I got really ill really fast, and it was kind of shocking that my blood pressure just dropped out by the second day. And my guys came, and I called one of my nieces. She was 5 years old. I could hardly speak. I was just like a whisper. And I couldn't get a radial pulse down by your thumb. So I knew my pressure was below 80. And, that's, you're not going to be conscious much longer when you're dropping like that. So she called 911, and the ambulance came, and my fire medic guys from Station 22, they came and took care of me. I got 2 high flow IVs en route, and I got some more at the emergency room. And then some things went wrong. There was some stuff prescribed that it reacted to. And I just got floored there in the ER. I was getting up to get dressed, and they came in and pushed some meds. And it was sort of these standard orders. They were pushing these meds on everybody at the same time because there were so many people in the room, in the emergency room. And the nurse just came in and just delivered it. Normally they count those things down, with like over 2 minutes or something and ease it in. And so it was like a morphine thing. And I was already challenged, and my system just vasodilated. And I didn't really have a blood pressure after that. My wife said I just dropped. And they worked on me for a while. They Narcaned me a couple times to try to kill the results, kill the effects of the morphine. And they started the high flow IVs and the Trendelenburg, the head low thing, and I ended up in intensive care. And I was up there. I was out for the whole night. I went in about 3 or 4 and I was out the whole night. And I woke at some point during that night, midnight or 1, I left my body.
All right, let's not get too far ahead. I have a kind of a medical question. I'm not a doctor or anything, but did I hear you right? You had a really severe flu and they gave you morphine for it. Is that normal?
Yeah, they gave me a synthetic morphine called Nubane, and they gave me an anti-nausea thing. And it was just they were trying to stay ahead of the flow of people that were coming in with this flu, I think. So yeah, the doctor's orders were just across the board. Everyone that's in these rooms, give them these 2 things.
Huh.
And when she came in, I said, you know what? I'm feeling way better. I'm just getting dressed. And she's like, no doctor's orders. And, I was a good soldier. I was a fireman. So I said, all right. And my wife said it was hilarious. Your eyes just rolled back and you fell like a stone. And so, yeah, I was, like I said, I came in there on my knees and it didn't take much to knock me out.
Wow. Okay. So what was the final blow that really knocked you out?
The final blow that it had to be that Nubane, because that's going to relax the system and vasodilate all your vessels. In other words, I had the fluid that was in my body already was minimal. And that's why I was having problems. And then they just took the system and stretched it open. So whatever perfusion I was getting dropped out, further. So yeah, it was, they were saying that 40/0 were the blood pressures I was getting. And afterwards, I was a big triathlete. I did Ironmans, and I was constantly, these guys are weirdos. They're constantly exercising, cycling, and you got them in your area. Cycling and swimming and running every day. They're fitting these workouts in. And they said your system was so tuned that it was able to withstand this shock.
Wow. And your wife was in the room with you?
Yeah, she was in the room. She started taking notes immediately. And I was like, I can't believe you got the time. She goes, they came in at, 3:40 with the first Narcan. They came back with 3:45 with another Narcan. Narcan's, that's a powerful drug. It goes in and it absolutely gobbles up the opiates. As a fireman, respond to an overdose, we'll go into a lifeless heroin addict and push Narcan, and they're instantly awake. They're instantly on their feet swinging at us. So yeah, it's powerful.
So did you actually flatline, or did you just go unconscious and have an out-of-body experience that way?
Yeah, I went unconscious. There's no record of me flatlining in intensive care or bringing in a defibrillator or doing some kind of steps. I just I got to the point where the spirit said, this body is not supporting this my mission any longer. And that's you can, I've talked about this before, you can do those things with like this ecstatic dance, and things like Vision Quest, where you don't eat for several days and you sit in the forest. This is what the Native Americans are doing, stressing their body to the point where they have an experience. And mine sort of happened like that.
Right. All right. So what happened? How did you know you left your body, and what happened?
Well, I was all of a sudden. I mean, all I remember is, I was in the emergency room getting ready to go home, and then the next thing I knew, conscious Bill knew, was I was this huge expanded cloud. I was this huge expanded balloon, some sort of huge awareness mass flying through this world of stars. I've called them stars forever. They were these colored balls, and they were all around me in brilliant colors. And I was parading through them, and it was like this welcoming. I just felt so amazing. And, I've told this before that it was like some sort of cosmic orgasm. I felt euphoric. I felt ecstatic. I didn't know a person could feel that good. And a lot of things, I wasn't Bill Letson anymore. And a lot of things about my life that, I cherish and things, they did not matter at all. And I was aware of everything, but it was like I'd been tricked, like it was some sort of game that I'd been involved in, or a joke of some sort, that I was this dude for a while. And I had, all these challenges, and I had this career and this whole story. But it was all like it was a trick. And I was back to who I really was, this hugely expanded being that had awareness of everything. There weren't any questions.
When you say back to who you really were, are you saying that you had always been, or at least for a long time before coming here into this body on earth, you existed as that thing that you were back as? Or, you know what I mean? Because it sounds like a return is what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah, I was, the biggest thing that kept going through my head was, how in the world did I forget who I really was? This seemed like it was such a major trick that had been played on me, that I believed I was this human being, this single, this separate, this, person. And I was so much more. I was this hugely expanded awareness. I was still this being, but I was connected to everything. And all those colored stars that were all around me were other beings, I think, like we all are. And they were giving me a pat on the back, saying, "Good job, you made it. Well done." And it was a welcoming home, and it's absolutely euphoric. And the French call the human orgasm, they call it la petite mort, which means the little death. And that makes perfect sense, because the feeling I had was way beyond a human, euphoric state of an orgasm. It was way beyond that. It was 100 times more exhilarating. And I think that's, to be honest with you, I think that's what happens to all of us when we transition from this life. When we step out of these bodies, we return to that absolute euphoria.
To what we were, in other words.
And where we were. We're in this sea of pure love, that's what it feels like. You're just a drop in a sea of pure love.
Did you have any insights as to where that is, if that's a different place than here?
I didn't then, but like I said, I felt this was a joke or a game. But a lot has happened, and I have this Kundalini thing that has progressed over the years, and I see a lot of things. If I sit still for just a minute or two now, all around us are grids or webs, or it's like we're in a simulation or a hologram or something. And the where that you're asking about is all around us, and we're kind of in this. What do they have that in the Star Trek? They have that. They go into that
hologram room.
Yeah, the holodeck.
Holodeck, yes.
we're in this holodeck thing, and it really tests us because we have free will here, and we can choose to be self-centered and selfish. This is kind of the cheer these days. But when we decide that others are more important than ourselves, well, we're making some kind of progress. We're going to rally back to that. We bottomed out at 2012, and there's a new energy coming into the planet now, and this is why there are so many people interested in these podcasts. The energy, the shamans will tell you the energy frequency has changed, and we're going to, upturn back to a heaven on earth state. And, that's starting now. I'm getting emails like crazy from all over the world, and that's what's going on.
How interesting is that? You also talked about just a second ago about being one with everybody and everything. And other people with these experiences have told me this too, but nobody can explain it to me. Can you explain what that means?
Being one with everything, this is our natural state. That's who we are. We are drops of divine light, and we come from a sea of pure love. And what we've done is we've dropped ourselves into the holodeck, and we've become a separate, an ego. And we've been given two brains. The left brain is of the beast that lives here, and the right brain is connected to home. So when you quiet yourself, when you sit in stillness and silence, this is what meditation is all about. You connect with that right brain because you've turned off all the activity of the beast. The machine's not moving around. You're not thinking about, you got to go pick up the kids or whatever. You've gotten to this state where you can reconnect with the divine, with where we're from. Yeah, we are these drops of pure light. We are these infinite beings of energetic thought. And we have put ourselves into these forms. We've done it thousands of times. The whole thing is set up. The whole thing is scripted. And we drop in here, and in each lifetime, we've got 3 or 4 big challenges. If anybody thinks back on their life, they know there were 3 or 4 times when it was close. I think I lost it all for a second there. And, did we choose love? Did we choose to proceed with love and selflessness? And, we grow, our soul grows when we make those higher vibrational choices.
Okay. Tell me now about the people that you met up there.
Okay, so I was flying through all these stars, these colored balls of pure joy, and the whole thing was, how did I forget who I really was? That was a shocker, and I knew everything. I could see formulas and diagrams. It was just coming by like super fast. So I'm flying along, and I'm saying, this is pretty cool. And all of a sudden I landed somewhere, and this place was solid. There was indirect lighting. There were tables and chairs there. There was equipment there, and there were beings there. In front of me, there were these 3 short hooded guys, and they were smiling from ear to ear, and they were bouncing around, and they were joking, and I was pretty confused. And they were saying things to me like, what can you tell us? What did you learn? How was it? And I was looking at them, and one of them turned to the other, to the other 2, and they were all kind of bouncing around and giggling. And he said, he doesn't remember us. And they all started laughing uproariously and bouncing around. And I thought, I do remember something like this as a kid. If we have time, we'll go into that. But I do remember these beings when I would be at sleep. That magic place between dreaming and waking and sleeping that's a connection to the divine. And I remember these guys in front of me, and I couldn't open my eyes. So anyway, there back to this place I was, and then there was this other guy, and he was like this tall, wispy guy, like a slimmed down Gumby or a cactus. And when he came forward, it was like I was looking at a reflection underwater. He kind of sectioned and moved. He had the biggest smile on his face. Eyes were bright. And when he came close to me, my throat tightened and my chest expanded. And I felt like my chest was going to explode. And I was going to break down crying from love. There was so much love. It was overwhelming to me that coming from this individual. And he was kind of in charge, but not really. It seemed to be that these guys were a bunch of disorderly type guys, and he wasn't authoritarian about anything. So we talked a little bit back and forth, and I just remember he was smiling and chuckling. He was laughing at everything I had to say. And then I said, well, let's get to it, you guys. I'm not going back to that place. And are we going to do a review of my life? And he thought that was the funniest dang thing. He just started chuckling. And his answer was, sure, let's do that. How do you want to start? And I thought this was real strange. And I told a few stories. I didn't have any real regrets. The only thing, I got offered this Park Service job when my wife and I were in college. And she wanted to take it because it was, they're going to fly me out to this island off the coast. And we were going to live in a little shack and count foxes and on this island and stuff. And that was perfect for her. And I got this other Forest Service job. So I said, yeah, I regretted that I didn't do that for her because she would have been in heaven. But so I talked for a while. They really weren't listening. It was, those guys were bouncing around, giggling and stuff. And nobody really was concerned with my gig. And finally he just goes, all right, that's enough. It's time to go back. And I was like, go back? I'm not going back there. What, are you kidding me? And the three little guys, it was like they were reassigned. They just disappeared off, to another soul coming in or something. I don't know. And this place was, it looked like it was set up. It was a regular processing place where we go and we have things done to us, or I don't know, but it was like some sort of a facility.
Can you describe it any more than that? Do you remember at all what it looked like?
Yeah, in that slideshow you saw, it was like I had this kind of watery picture of indirect lighting and equipment hanging from the ceiling and equipment on the walls and tables and beds, like hospital beds or gurneys. And yeah, it was right out of an alien abduction story. So yeah, that's what I don't think I think all of these things, I'm about to make a big statement, but I think all of these things, there's alien abductions, there's UFO, ghosts, spirits, all these things, they're all about us and the consciousness of us that survives death. And, maybe we die in a plane crash or something and we're kind of confused and we walk around somebody's neighborhood for a while we try to figure it out. And this is the whole thing. If you go to a battlefield or a place where there was a, horrible catastrophe where a lot of lives are lost, this is where these ghost hunters, they'll find these beings, that are confused. So yeah, I think that's what this is. I think a lot of these things, all of these things they have to do with us and our consciousness that survives death and survives everything.
Okay. Is there anything else about the experience when you were there that you remember that you could tell us?
When he came forward,
the tall guy.
Yeah, when the tall, wispy guy came forward, there was no question I was going back. I could actually feel frequency changing, and the place was starting to dematerialize. And then I went back, and there's a whole nother thing. Descending back into this place, all the things that are negative, that are low vibrational about us, things like jealousy and anger and all these emotions, they don't go with us into the next world. They stay here, and they're learning tools. And we're here to to suffer and to sacrifice until we stop resonating with those frequencies and just say, I'm not doing this anymore. I realize who I am. That's what this place is all about. It's like an earth school. The only other thing that I could add to that is when I did feel this descending thing, I had a guy ask me a couple of years after this event. He said, okay, now that you've told me your story, without thinking, who sent you back? Who is it that sent you back? And my answer was, I sent me back. And I said, I have no idea what that means. And that was at the time, it's 95 or 96. I said, I have no idea what that means, but I sent me back. And it does kind of fit, with what I think is going on here, is that we have this, we are this greater being, and we have these thousands of lives where we come into the world and we experience things. And, we are those lives. Our current personality, this Bill Letson, his resume and his driver's license, his whole story, we are these temporary lives, these maybe even, crash test dummies, that we go through these experiences and we learn from them. And then we transcend this place and we realize that I never really existed. And I know that sounds confusing, but that's where you get to when you listen to the shamans and some of the things, the ancients talk about as far as life being an illusion. So yeah, that's all I could add to that.
Some people are given a choice of whether they want to come back or not. You've probably had time to think about this. Why do you think you didn't get a choice?
He indicated you have things to do, and you have things to go through. The reason I was coming up on 40, now I'm coming up on 70, and I've lost friends and family. I've watched parents take their last breath, and those things we all know these things are devastating to us, and we can choose how we're going to process those things. We can always choose. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that I've experienced, and they were supposed to come, in your 60s. And there, I started talking about this a few years ago, and about 2 years ago, I kind of went into a place where I never thought I'd go. And I started talking about, the bigger picture of what's going on here. This is an earth stage, and it's all very managed by the caretakers that get us through these lives. And I was going to the IONS conference, and I put this into my slideshow a couple of years ago. And I said, well, let's just go for it. Come what may, this might help other people. And when I went outside, I sleep outside on the deck ever since a lot of this happened. And I was looking up at the stars, and I'm like, well, I think this will go pretty good. I got the slides figured out, and the sky just opened up. And there was this huge woman, and she was made of gold, and she was absolutely stunning, beautiful, perfect. And the whole world was shaking, and it was unbelievable. And I looked into her eyes, and I was, I've gotten to the point where these things had a lot of experiences. And I said, I am not going to mess this one up. And I'm going to do my best to find out what's going on here. And I looked into her eyes, and she was absolutely stoked. She was absolutely excited. It was like she was saying, right on, dude, thank you. You're the man, and she was gesturing towards the sky, and arms were flying around, and all I heard was a roaring, just this roaring sound. This if you look at things, mythology about the gods when they come in human contact, it's a very powerful experience, and that's what I saw. That's what I experienced. It reminded me, I got this background as a firefighter. It reminded me of when a brush fire turns around, and it might outflank you or something, and now you got to hunker down and let it blow by. And it reminded me of that. It reminded me of 80-foot flame brush fire roaring around us, and we're in a safety zone. The ground is shaking. You can't talk to anybody. And just this roaring freight train going over you of power, natural power. And so to go back to what you asked originally, I think that some of these things that people like me are doing, they've got this thing where it's free will down here. And when somebody steps forward, like you with doing this podcast, when somebody steps forward and furthers a plan for a waking up of the planet, et cetera, the heavens smile down upon us. And sometimes they let out a whoop. And that's what I think that was you did it. You overcame your fear, and you're saying things that scared you before, and they're things that we want people to hear. So yeah, that's one of the things I think I'm back here to do.
So that big female being that you saw from the sky, and you talked about a roar and related it to fire. It sounds kind of scary. Was it scary or was it wonderful?
It was wonderful. You can't scare me. It was the deck was shaking, the house was shaking, the earth was shaking, and it's like you see those biblical paintings with the flowing robes, and the clouds parted, and there's this being, father figure looking down at the that wasn't just an art form. This is the real world. And I know we've progressed to this point where we've got an answer for everything, but our answers are our science answers and our history answers and our religion answers. They're flawed. And there's really something amazing going on here, and we're all part of it. And there's never anything to fear. We come from an incredible place, incredible beings of pure love, and everything's perfect.
Now, I wish the people that are listening could see you, because you have this big smile on your face the whole time you're talking about this. And maybe it would help them feel the joy that you seem to be expressing as you recount this.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. Was that a question?
No, it wasn't a question. It was really a comment for the listeners. But if you want to comment on that, you can. But my impression is that you feel a lot of joy in all of this.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Tell me about these three short guys in the hooded robes. You said that you had kind of remembered them. Let's go into that a little bit more. Spend some time on that.
In this world, our thoughts are driving our lives, our emotions, our feelings. This is what the universe is really about. And we're here to discover that, to come to a realization of that. And then we start to choose higher vibrations, and we start to vibrate, to resonate with this frequency of love. Literally, we vibrate out of this place, out of these low vibrations of anger and, like I said, jealousy, and there's a whole bunch of low vibrations. We don't resonate with them anymore, and we earn our wings, and we lift out of this place. And heaven is all around us. So those guys, those hooded guys, I've always felt they were like technicians, and they're sort of keeping us going. maybe changing our mind about things, keeping us, the avatars here on Earth, keeping us on track to have the adventures that we signed up for in the divine state. And if you watch that movie, The Adjustment Bureau, that is such a good movie. And the guys, they have these like some of the guys, they have these black helmets and they black robes, and it's like they're mimicking these guys that I saw. Like they are there to do a technical job, to keep us on point, on track, to have the experiences we're here to have. And they work behind the scenes. Graham Hancock wrote a book. It's called Supernatural. And one of the chapters is he talks about these guys, and we have names for them throughout history. We call them leprechauns and trolls and elves, gnomes, and they sort of hang in that place just beyond what we can perceive here. And sometimes they step into the here, to upgrade things. And this is what the whole alien abduction thing is about. Why we're so convinced that they're here now in the physical. And the reality is we move into a frequency that's just as real as here. And these entities are everywhere.
Without taking any time to think about it at all, do you have any idea who the tall, wispy guy was?
Yeah, I think it was my higher self. I think it was, we have a physical self, we have a soul, which is a depository of all the information from our many lives. And then you move above that and you have a higher self, and they get into even an oversoul. But the bottom line is we are these huge expanded beings. We don't know about it because we're sort of a play toy here in this illusionary world of form. We live our thousands of lives, and we don't really pick up on these things, but we are these huge, huge expanded beings. And I think I came face to face with this higher self of me. And it was something in his laugh, and when he chuckled, I knew that laugh. When he was laughing, I could feel it in me. So it was, I don't know. I think it was my higher self.
Well, I'm glad that place you're describing that we're going to go to has smiles and laughter. And because if everything was just straight and serious, that'd be more like hell to me.
Yeah, it's our minds are creating everything, and the mind is the builder, and it's building our reality. On the other side, it's instantaneous, and on this side, it may take weeks, months, or even a lifetime to create what your mind is thinking about.
Yeah, and you mentioned the right brain is our connection with that world. How do we use that?
It's there all the time, and it's like I said, I had that whisper in my ear about just before my near-death experience, and we're hearing these things all the time, intuitively. It's our intuition, like a whisper, like a tap on the shoulder, like a nudge in a certain direction to go with something that feels good. So one of the best ways to use that is to scale down the clutter of your life here, unplug and detox and sit quietly in nature and eat fresh, unprocessed food that has the energy of the sun in it, freshly picked greens and fruits and things like that. And you fill yourself up with that light. And you turn off all these distractions, all this, get out in nature. You see the picture behind me. You get out in the natural world, and the supernatural world just comes rushing into your life. It's incredibly full.
That's great. I've really enjoyed this, Bill. Do you have any last thoughts? Any message that you've come back here to let everybody know?
There's a series out there called the Pyramid Code. And what it says is that the ancients, our ancient ancestors, they had a much different world. They lived in a world where it was heaven on earth. And then through the precession of the equinox, we descended into the times we are now. And we just turned the corner at 2012. That wasn't the end of the world. That was the beginning of a new type of person. As the Mayans said, a person with more divine energy that they'll live their life with. So yeah, things seem pretty bleak. Just watch the news and stuff, or any movie these days. But they aren't. They really aren't. And if you can turn back to what the ancients knew and turn back to the natural world, you can find everything you're looking for right here, right now.
That's the great deception right now, isn't it? That everything is bleak.
Yeah, it's a great deception.
And if that's what's in your mind, then I guess it is for you.
Yeah, and you know those screens that we watch, those are incredibly transformative. Whatever comes through that screen, it goes from the left brain, and the right brain accepts it without question, because the universe, communicates in pictures. You get visions and things like that. It's always pictures. That what I'm seeing. And so you put the screen of moving pictures in front of you, and it tells you a bleak story. That becomes your reality.
Most people think that the right brain is linked with creativity. Left brain analytical, right brain creative. How does that relate to this whole link with the spirit world, or I forget how you put it, through your right brain?
Yeah, the right brain's linked to creation. It's right there in the words. The words are never going to lie to us. Creation, creativity, that's music and art and color and dance and flow. This is what we are. We are these flowing life forms. And we're alive.
That really makes a lot of sense to me, that part of who we really are is creators.
Right. It's a true statement.
That's a big part of who our being really is, isn't it?
Yeah. And that left brain is the beast that's running around in the hologram. And the only thing it wants to do is survive. And, this is a basic animal thing. And part of our processing is to overcome that left brain, that mind of the beast, which has been 100% in charge your whole life. That's the narrator that you're listening to, me, to overcome that guy and realize there is no death and that we are all connected. It's not some feel-good Goomba story. It's for real. And you live your life in that vibration, and every day's a miracle.
I think that's a good thought to leave people with. We all need a little bit of that, if not a lot of that. Thanks again, Bill.
Yeah, thank you.
If you have had a round-trip death experience, we would love to hear about it. Send an email to eric@roundtripdeath.com. And lastly, if you have found this program uplifting, if it's given you just a little more hope in the future, share it with a friend, hit that follow button, and take a few seconds to write us a review. Until next time, I wish you everything good that you're looking for in this life and the next.